problems we have. It's that we have the capacity to solve them and we're not coming together to do it. All across this country, we are seeing challenges that are not bigger than we are. Having a criminal justice system that is trying to arrest its way out of addiction and mental health problems. Having people who work full-time jobs and can't support their family. Having a nation that has so much gun violence now that instead of solving the problem, we're capitulating to it and not just teaching our kids about reading, writing, and arithmetic, but teaching them duck and cover drills, active shooter drills. None of these issues are bigger than who we are. We have shown our capacity in this country to do things that other countries thought were impossible, from going to the moon to mapping the human genome. So folks want to know why I'm running for president. It's not just because of my policy ideas. It's not just because of my incredible Spanish. No, thank you very much.
And stare.
No. That's the Spanish translation of no. I'm running for president because I believe in us. I believe in what we can do when we come together. I believe we need leaders, not trying to divide us, but leaders who are intent to unite us. Leaders that don't put people down, but lift people up. People that are dedicated every day, like our ancestors are, to putting more united and indivisible into this one nation under God. That is the call of our country, because we in Jersey, we are seeing what's happening. We went from the nation with the best infrastructure on the planet Earth, and now we're about to pass to our children trillions of dollars of infrastructure debt. That rail that runs down the Northeast Corridor runs half an hour slower than it did in the 1960s. Mm-hmm. That's a fact. China's just built 18,000 miles of high-speed rail. And speaking of China, that's why I love my shirt right here. Teaching is her superpower. It is. As a guy who grew up in some of the best public schools in America, I want every kid. But what is our country doing compared to our competitors? We went from having the #1 ranked education system, K through college on the planet Earth, to now not even in the top 10. And now other nations, you know what they've done? Not only out-investing us in education, as we disinvest in education, attack public school teachers, you know what other countries are doing? They're saying, you know what? The beauty of children, like this incredible baby who's trying to steal my moment. I can't compete with something that cute. All that cute. Yes, but the baby's got more hair than me. That's very depressing. Other countries are saying, well, you know what? The brain is developed most in the second, third trimester to the third or fourth year. So now they said we're going to invest in prenatal care. America leads the planet Earth in infant mortality, maternal mortality, because we don't invest in those things. Other countries said, hey, we're going to have universal preschool. Our nation doesn't have it. Other countries said we're going to have paid family leave. Afghanistan and the Congo have paid family leave, and we don't have it in the United States of America. And that's why kids, by the time they get to school now, they're behind globally than where they should be. We used to be this country that we invested in the things that everyone benefited from. Research and development, infrastructure, education, and now we're pleading poverty with massive debts because we're giving tax breaks to the wealthiest of the wealthiest. Boo. This last Trump tax plan, don't boo, vote, as Obama said. Don't boo, give a small dollar contribution. No, we have got to get back to doing the things that make this nation different in the world. And what makes us different, look around Bergen County's room right now. This Bergen County room. We've got Jews and Catholics and Christians and atheists and Sikh Americans. The diversity in this room, that's our strength. And we can't let people divide us up against each other. And we, in a time of crisis, can't become what we're running against. I was walking into an Iowa town hall, and this guy, big guy, sees me. I'm a big guy. He sees this former tight end, former All-American football player. The older I get, the better I was. and he puts his arm around me and he goes, dude, I want you to punch Donald Trump in the face. And I look at him and I go, dude, that's a felony. I'm like, come on. Do we really think the only way to beat him is to be like him?
No.
No. That's not the call of our country in this moral moment. The call of our country has got to be the ideals of a beloved community. Because I am here. Because in a time of housing discrimination and bigotry, the Bergen County beloved community said, we're not going to emulate that, we're going to beat that. We're going to match darkness with our light. We're going to match hate with our love. That's what's called for right now. I want you all to know this grouping right now, you all are empowering me to stay in this fight. And I love my colleagues. I've got great friendships with them, but I'm telling you, I've got a different message. I am not interested in fighting fire with fire. I ran a fire department in Newark. It's not a good strategy. We need not only the best ideas in this election, but we need the spirit that's going to unite this country. We need the spirit that's going to inspire us to the best of who we are. We need to meet this moral moment not with more moral failing, but with us calling to the moral imagination of a country again. And so I want to end with these last two stories. The first is the second half of the story I started telling you because, you all raised me in Bergen County. You sent me off to college. I got into Stanford University because of a 4.0 1600. No, wait a second. 4.0 yards per carry, 1600 receiving. I won a football scholarship. Gotta be truthful, y'all. It blows me away that some of my high school friends are literally in this room and are refusing to tell any of the stories about me and that fateful toga party we had. But I go off to college. I get my law degree, my master's degree. My father was like, boy, you got more degrees in the month of July, but you ain't hot. My parents taught me that life is not about the degrees you get, it's about the service you give. And so as a guy who knew that I am here because people in Bergen County fought for my housing rights, what was my first job out of law school? Going to Newark, New Jersey as a tenants' rights lawyer to fight for other people's housing rights. All of us here drink deeply from wells of freedom, liberty, and opportunity that we did not dig. What's the American way? Is to understand that you can't pay back those people who struggled and fought and served and sacrificed, scrubbed floors and toilets for us. The only way to pay it back is to pay it forward in service. That's who we are. And so I started my career in Newark. I still live in that neighborhood. I ended up running an amazing American city that so many people looked down on, so many people thought we couldn't do. And now we're the biggest economic development boom in 60 years. Text messages from my high school friends in October of 2013 because they're like, dude, I walked in to go vote and your name was on the ballot. and the proudest moment was when my whole state elected me to go to Washington. Mm-hmm. Here I was. 4 decades from when I almost didn't move to New Jersey because of housing discrimination. Now I'm the 4th elected African American in the United States Senate. This is amazing. So to finish that story, though, I get to the Senate and I do what senators do that have a high sense of self-regard. I decided to write a book. And if your name is Booker, it's a lot of pressure, everybody. A lot of pressure. And so I went back to fact check my dad's story. I mean, how big was the dog, for crying out loud? And I went back to find the people from Bergen County who helped me move into that town. Now, the head of the organization that used to meet in the living room in Bergen County, she was very easy to find, because she's still head of the Fair Housing Council in Bergen County today. Her name is Lee Porter. She is 92 years old. This woman from Bergenfield, New Jersey is still representing people. Now she doesn't represent black families. She represents Americans with disabilities. She represents same-sex couples, because for her, justice has no color, no race, no orientation. There's one justice, one nation. We are one love here, people. I confirm all the facts. I ask her to say, where's Marty Friedman? And she goes, Cory, I'm sorry, he's passed away. Imagine how I feel never being able to say thank you to the man that took a punch for my family. But she said, hey, Cory, there's a lawyer that organized Marty and all the other lawyers into the sting operation. His name's Arthur Lessman. I call him up. We have an amazing conversation. He confirms that it was not a pack of wolves. It was just a dog. And at the end, though, I asked him why. Why would he help black families moving into his community in the 1960s, at a time of fears of white flight, fears of real estate prices going down, when he was struggling with his business, why would he make this decision? And he goes, I remember the moment I made the decision. I go, the moment? He goes, yeah, the moment. I go, well, what was it? He goes, well, it was March 7th, 1965, years before I was born. And I'm like, what was going on then? He goes, well, I was just sitting at home watching TV, hanging out at the end of a long week. And I go, really? I do that all the time. I'm usually hanging out with my two best friends, Ben and Jerry. I was watching the debate with them last night. And they make great vegan flavors, by the way. Yeah, somebody does know that. And that was the days we used to have only 3 channels, everybody. And the TV would go off at 11 p.m. and be done. I said that in front of high school students in Nevada, and one of them was like, looked terrified. What did you guys do? And I'm like, we had higher birth rates back then. We found things to do. Oh, it's like, Cory, hurry up. I'm in the middle of the story. All right, well, I'll get to the point. And so what happened on that day, March 7th, 1965, that's now marked in history? This guy on a couch in New Jersey is watching TV, and they break away to show a bridge in Alabama. They break away from an ongoing movie, I know the movie was called Judgment at Nuremberg, to show a bridge in Alabama called the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Because on that day in 1965, these marchers who started in Selma were trying to march to Montgomery and got stopped on that bridge by Alabama state troopers that would not let them pass. And I tell you, what happened next is now known as Bloody Sunday. Because those marchers got tear gassed, and then those state troopers charged into them and started beating them over the head. One of those marchers has always been my hero. Now he's my colleague in Congress. His name is John Lewis. John Lewis, very humble man. He goes, Cory, I shed a little bit of blood on that bridge. And I go, Congressman, I said, you got your head cracked open. He was bleeding. He had to be carried to safety, unconscious. And so what does a Jersey guy do on a couch 1,000 miles away? Does he just sit there and say, that's terrible? No, he decides to do something about it. He gets up off of that couch, realizes he can't even afford a plane ticket to Alabama, not to mention shut his business down, and he thinks to himself, I've got to do something. And so he says, you know what, I can afford 1 hour a month. 1 hour a month, a week of pro bono work. And he calls around and he finds this young woman named Lee Porter that's like, hallelujah, I need some help. And the two of them start working. He said 1965 becomes 66, becomes 67. He says now he organizes lawyers like Marty Friedman. Now they have a sting operation, 68, 69. He says he remembers the day that he gets a case file handed to him of 2 people trying to move into New Jersey from the South. Their names on that case file were Carrie and Carolyn Booker, my parents. I am literally standing here before you as a candidate for President of the United States because of that connection between all of us. Because of a bunch of marchers on a bridge changed the heart of one man in New Jersey who went on and changed the outcome and the destiny of a generation not yet born yet. That's who we are. That's America. Not necessarily the challenges and the problems, but our ability to see them, not to surrender our power, and to stand up and do something about them. We are where we are as a country because we know what the definition of patriotism is. Patriotism is love of country, but you cannot love your country unless you love your fellow countrymen and women. And what love is not a sentiment. It's not a feeling. It says that, hey, if your kids don't have a great public school to go to, my kids are lesser off. Love says if your family doesn't have a house with a roof over their head and security, then my kids don't have security. It's knowing at the end of the day, we are all in this together. This election is not a referendum on one guy in one office. We need to beat him, I know, but beating him is a floor, it's not a ceiling. Beating him gets us out of the valley, it doesn't get us to the mountaintop. This election is a referendum on who we are and who we must be to each other. And I'm running for President of the United States because I believe we are a nation of love, I believe we are a nation of light, and I believe that when we come together, and we will, the problems that seem so large right now will seem small, and we will get this nation to the mountaintop. Thank you.